Hello, Aries, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of May 2022. So, Aries, I hope you're all well. I'm excited to take a look at what this month might have in store for you. This reading will be for Aries Sun, Moon, and Rising. And as always, before we get started, please do keep in mind these readings are general in nature, so they're meant to kind of like tap into and apply to a number of different people. So not everything that comes through will necessarily apply to you. Definitely take anything and everything that does resonate, however that makes sense for your specific situation. Keep an open mind to anything that you feel might be helpful as you move through the month, and you can simply leave the rest. And Aries, before we get started, just a heads up, I'm changing my format a little bit this month. It was my intention to try and cut down on the length of the videos. April has been a really crazy, hectic month. I've had a lot on my plate. It's been really busy. And to be quite honest, my energy was pretty off. Like, I'm feeling better now, but I was actually considering not doing readings for May. And I really do enjoy doing it. So I decided I would go ahead, but I figured maybe tweaking the format, pulling less cards would help me pare down in terms of the timing, so that it would make it a little easier for me to prepare and record all 12 readings for the month. And funnily enough, the readings are still quite long. So I'm having this problem where I keep trying to make them shorter and it just doesn't happen. So it'll be a little bit more brief, less cards than usual. But there seems to be a base level of information that needs to come through, and that seems to be unavoidable. But so I've got one oracle card for you. We will pull some tarot. I'll get you a couple of affirmations, and then I'll pull a second and final oracle card for you at the end. And instead of openly interpreting that, I will just read directly from the guidebook, and we'll see what kind of insight that gives us and how it might tie the reading together at the end. And as usual, I will start with your channeled messages. So channeling information and messages is technically what I do while I'm reading the cards as well, but I like to take a moment before I actually get any cards out to try and connect with and channel information without any visual cues, just to see what comes through for fun. And so I capped your channeled messages to 5 this month, just for the sake of brevity. So we'll consider it like a top 5. And we'll get into those. And as I was preparing for the reading and kind of connecting to your energy, I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up as to like what I was picking up on or what came through most strongly. So this may resonate for you, it may not. But I was really getting a sense of like this feeling like cutting the BS, right? Like cutting the bullshit and really focusing on what matters. What brings you enjoyment, what is fulfilling, what is, and like could even be just in relationships, like what is healthy and reciprocal. So it's kind of like a renewed motivation to focus on who you are and what you want and what aligns with that, what and who aligns with that, and kind of just like cutting out the excess noise from your life. So that might be relationships, it might be specific people that you're dealing with, it might be habits, it might be certain commitments that, you know, are no longer serving you or are kind of like watering down your energy and your focus that you could be putting into things that you would otherwise, you know, benefit more from. So it's basically like being really aware of what's become a drain on like your time, your energy, your emotions, so like your resources in any way, shape, and form, and just kind of being willing to recognize that like you might not be making changes quite yet, but it's just kind of like maybe coming to a realization that there are things in your day-to-day life that you can kind of remove to make your life a little bit easier and to make better use of your energy. So, and like, especially with cutting the BS, I think anyone in your life that like kind of feeds you bullshit and isn't necessarily like on the same level, that might be like could very well be highlighted this month. So it's like being very intentional about what you're doing and why, and knowing that you deserve to like get the most out of your energy, right? And your relationships, your interactions. So it's very like a very empowered energy. So I liked that for you. And so your first channeled message for this month was forcing through red tape or restrictions. So this could be in any sense. It could be career-wise. It could be in terms of relationships, any kind of like legal matter. This can also be so it's very much connected to like the idea of cutting through the BS, right? So it's like you might be anything that you might be dealing with an organization or a structure that's already established, where there are certain channels that you need to go through, certain processes that just kind of complicate or convolute the situation. And it's kind of being able to like work your way through anything that's blocking you from getting to that end goal. And I got the sense of like what's right is right. And so it doesn't necessarily matter if the processes in place don't support what you believe to be right. It's like trusting that you can work through things in such a way. And like sometimes you do have to go through the appropriate channels, and you just have to be patient. And sometimes you have to challenge those structures that are in place, right? Because especially if they're designed to prevent situations from being rectified, or things from being dealt with in an appropriate way, I guess. And that can also be like, it doesn't have to be red tape, like in terms of like an organization or a structure. It can also be like on a personal level, like your perceptions, right? So the limitations that you put on yourself, or the expectations that you operate by, right? So it could be like the conditions that you set. So all of the things that need to be fulfilled in order for you to do a certain thing or believe something. Like, so it's basically like kind of challenging the limits that you put on how and when things can be done, and figuring out if there's a more direct way to get there for yourself, instead of getting yourself all caught up. Because getting caught up in that red tape, so to speak, is really just it's kind of tying up our energy. It provides like a roadblock, and then a lot of times it can cause us to feel frustrated or discouraged, to perhaps give up on what it is that we're trying to achieve, or it can just like water down our focus and our energy. So that's something to be mindful of this month. The next thing that came through your second message was absolutely not. And so I got the sense of like saying no, ensuring that you're setting boundaries, not only setting boundaries, but respecting them, enforcing them. And those are boundaries for yourself and for other people. So things that you will and will not do for yourself, just based on your own well-being, and also the things that you won't like accept from other people, or allow other people to do to you. I think that's really, really important. So yeah, you might need to be a little bit more protective of your resources, and it might require you to say no. And I don't get the sense that you're somebody that necessarily has a difficult time saying no. I think the only reason that would be difficult is if you didn't have a great deal of clarity on what is right for you and why. So it's like the power is yours. You have the power to say no, to honor yourself, to set those boundaries. And it's just important to take time to check in with yourself, see what you need in any given situation, or in any given relationship. And that will give you the clarity, right? Because it's like, if we don't know where we stand, or we don't know what we want, it can be easy to say yes, or to have difficulty saying no to something that we're not necessarily 100% on. And I think also like that goes hand in hand with, if you are accepting responsibility for yourself, you're accountable to yourself and other people in terms of your commitments, and being intentional about what you're doing, then expecting that from other people as well. So I think, other people having their own accountability, personal accountability, is important. The next thing that came through was migration. So like moving south, it made me think of snowbirds, which is kind of funny because it's like the opposite time, right? Because we're coming into spring, and normally when people head south, especially for any length of time, it's like in the late fall and like the winter months, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting. So it could be like a return, or it might very well be like going south on a vacation. Regardless, like maybe you missed your chance to go south. I have no idea. And it doesn't have to be like out of country. It could be making a move, going further south. And I don't know, like, and you might have a specific connection to the idea of migration. It could be related to animals. I'm not sure. So however that applies to you, if it does, is a little bit interesting. The next thing that came through, your fourth message, was frightfully unaware. And so the kind of impression that I got is like somebody who is like so out of touch or so kind of oblivious that it's almost scary. And this can be just a simple ignorance, like this person might not realize how out of touch they are and it's like stressful for you. Or it could be, it could be a stronger, more assertive, aggressive energy, like somebody that you're dealing with that is like pushing for things to be a certain way. And it's like they're so out of touch that for them to, take the reins of a certain interaction or a certain situation would most certainly not be beneficial for other people. So yeah, I got the sense that like there might be a need to take a step back from individuals in your life that are particularly like unaware, right? Especially if there's any kind of risk involved, or if there's any kind of like teamwork and collaboration and somebody is trying to strong arm something, or maybe just like, it could also be like poisoning an environment. So it could be a coworker or a friend. As it could be in like a social setting, like somebody who's just like so out of touch. They could be just toxic, right? And just negatively impacting interactions, taking things off track, triggering people. So there might be a need to kind of like recognize and step back from that. Or if it's the converse, like somebody is like frightfully unaware, I get the sense that there might be some hesitation as to whether this is someone that you help, whether you step in, whether you try to guide them in the right direction. It might be kind of like a difficult call for you, maybe even on a moral level, if that makes sense. And then the last message that came through for you was eventual demise. And so this would refer to anything that it's like you can see that it's not going to end well, or maybe something started out with a specific intention or a specific goal in mind, and you can tell that goal is not necessarily going to be reached, or maybe it's evident that whatever that is going to crash and burn. So there is a sense of perhaps cutting your losses. And when I say cut your losses, it doesn't mean like cut and run. It kind of means like it could be material, and you might need to do that if that is connected to your finances or something like that. But the idea that I get is like also on an emotional level, on an energetic level. If you see that it's not necessarily going to work out, or if you think it's going to crash and burn, you don't have to completely remove yourself from the situation, but perhaps taking a step back, reducing the amount of like emotion or energy that you have invested in it, so that the eventual demise that you see coming isn't going to have a really intense impact on you. And then I got kind of like a conflicted energy with this eventual demise. Is like there could be a judgment call on your part, whether or not you interfere, whether you try to like fix or save the situation, or if you just or like educate and help other people, or if you just kind of like let things take their course. And I don't think there's a right answer, because obviously, however that makes sense to you, it'll be different for each and every individual. But I think you'll know what's right for you in terms of whatever that is, if it's a relationship, or if it's a job, if it's like a financial move. But there is a sense of like acceptance and release. So it's like when you can see that something is not going to pan out well, instead of, trying to force your way through it, or instead of being completely broken by it, it's kind of like finding a way to accept and release it. Because if there's only so much that you can do about it, you might as well put your energy into in a direction that is going to help you, even if you are facing some kind of failure or loss in the end. Okay, so we'll get your card for this month. Your oracle card is Loyal Heart. So I really like that. And like as soon as Loyal Heart came up, so obviously I channeled the messages that I just shared with you before I got your oracle card. But as soon as I saw that this is the one that came up, it really did make sense for me in terms of like cutting the bullshit, focusing on what matters and what brings you enjoyments, and that might very well be really firmly rooted in relationships. So like romantic relationships, friendships, even like connections with family. So I kind of feel like that might be highlighted in general. So loyalty, obviously, like it can pertain to so many different areas of life, but I feel like your relationships might very well be highlighted, and this might be a month to really take stock of the people that are in your life, where your relationships stand, if they are kind of supportive of and reflective of your values, your morals, just if they're kind of bringing, if they're bringing what you're looking for to the table, if they're kind of reciprocating as well. Because with this coming up, it's telling me like, and you may or may not know this on some level, but it's kind of like emphasizing for me that you have a lot to give, right? Like you are a valuable person in every way, shape, and form. So it's like, in terms of family, perhaps like as a mother or a father or son or daughter, sister, brother, a connection to somebody else. It's like you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer as a friend. You may have a lot to offer as an employee or a coworker. And so it's kind of saying like, if you have a lot of strengths and you have a lot of value to offer in any given setting and in any given interaction, that is kind of connected to your loyalty, right? Your willingness to help others, your willingness to step up, to not just like give up when things are difficult or when things don't go your way. And this like also can be like fair weather friends, right? So it's like, you might experience a lot of fair weather, kind of flaky people in your life that say one thing and do another, or that don't often follow through, or that maybe rely on you to kind of meet their needs and take care of them, but they don't necessarily show you that same level of concern. So it's like recognizing that you have a loyal approach to your friendships. And however loyalty is showing up in your life in terms of like the decisions that you make and also the loyalty being shown to you, it's like that's going to it might very well be highlighted this month. And so it's kind of taking stock of if that loyalty that you express is being received and reciprocated. And so obviously, like, we don't want to be doing things in any kind of relationship to another that is based on like giving so that we can receive, right? Because that's like an ego-driven behavior. That's not something that it ultimately is going to be beneficial, right? So we don't want to be participating in that, but it's acknowledging that, if you are a genuinely caring, loving, and supportive person, and you connect with people on on that level, and you give others that time and consideration and support, that loyalty, you deserve that to be shown back to you. And obviously everybody kind of operates on a different level, and we don't all have the same amount of time or resources. So the way that somebody shows their loyalty to you might not be the exact same. Like you might, be the type of person that you show your loyalty in terms of like, really lovely gifts or financial support or whatever. And perhaps another person in your life doesn't have those same resources, so they show that loyalty to you in terms of always lending an ear, or emotional support, inviting you out or hosting you or whatever. So it's kind of like love languages, that there are different ways that people give and receive love and that kind of fill us up, but it's kind of recognizing that at a base level, whatever resources you have and however you show your loyalty, it's that you are connecting with people who have the same kind of values, who have the same kind of approach to interactions and relationships, the same type of respect. So, for example, when considering a fair weather friend, right, that is likely going to be somebody who is, focused on their wants, their needs, what is convenient for them, and how you can help that make that happen, how you can support them, how you can make their life easier. They might rely on you to, like if they don't have anyone else to show up for them, maybe you're the last person, and the pressure is on you so that they're not like out of plans for the weekend or something like that. Or maybe they rely on you to kind of cater to them, and expend a lot of your time and energy and resources to make sure that they're attended to, but they don't necessarily reciprocate that. Right? So either they don't show you that same time and attention, they're not the type of person that would necessarily go out of their way in the same way that they expect you to. So it can really manifest, those imbalances can manifest in any number of ways. And that will be unique to you, and you'll know. But I think it's a really important time to recognize that you do bring something to the table, like a higher level of quality in your interactions. And you deserve people that recognize that in you, that appreciate that in you, and that are able to kind of engage in a respectful and reciprocal way, even if the way that they reciprocate comes in a different form, right? Because there's abundance and love comes in and can be shown in so many different ways. And it's you deserve to have those loyal partnerships. You deserve to have your loyalty recognized as well, right? So this is it's about trust. It's being a trustworthy person, doing the right thing, and having people that will show up for you in the same energy, people that you don't have to worry about, like, lying or cheating or stealing or going behind your back and saying questionable things, right? So it's like any of those people that are a little bit shady, or a little bit on the outskirts that maybe you don't totally trust, those imbalanced relationships where you feel like maybe you're being taken advantage of, or, maybe you kind of care about a certain person a lot and go out of your way for them on a regular basis, but whenever you're in need and you need them to step up, they're not there for you. Like those kinds of things, even if it's not something that happens on a regular basis that is really like damaging to you, it's recognizing that like this is kind of part of cutting the BS, right? And being more intentional about who you engage with and who you direct your loyalty, your love, your support, and your energy to, and keeping that in a realm of relationships where you're being acknowledged and respected in a similar way. It's like that's a way of setting boundaries for yourself, right? So that you're not sending your time and energy and resources out into a void where it's just being taken, and nothing kind of comes back to you, right? Because we can end up in empty partnerships, friendships, even in terms of employment. If you're somebody who is undercompensated for the work that you do, or you're always expected to go like above and beyond and to take on more tasks, but you're not being compensated appropriately as a result, right? So any way that you might be taken advantage of, it's recognizing that sometimes people see loyalty and trustworthiness as a weakness, right? Because it's like, oh, this person is someone that I can mold or easily like manipulate. And the fact is it's not, because you get to be intentional about who you trust, who you are loyal to, who gets your time and attention. And I think it's recognizing that because you have a lot to offer, you can be discerning, and perhaps even more discerning than you currently are, as to what you accept from others, what kind of interactions you engage in, and recognizing like when people are not quite loyal, when people are not kind of in that same energy as you, that's a good indication that perhaps it's not the best pairing, and perhaps it's not the best outlet for your energy, right? Because you deserve to, if you're going to be putting that energy out, you deserve to have that amplified and brought back to you. You deserve to benefit from the goodness that you're willing to put out there, instead of putting yourself in situations where you might be drained or taken advantage of, right? And at the end of the day, there are always going to be those kind of tough people to deal with. And sometimes it's a very fine line between, a person that we want to continue engaging with and one that we don't. Sometimes those are hard decisions to make. But it's recognizing that taking stock of those kinds of interactions and doing your best to remove yourself from the ones that are not reciprocal. It's setting boundaries, and it's say like, I do deserve more. Like I have a lot to offer, and the people that are ultimately going to suck other people dry and just be a drain on other people's time and resources, they'll just move on to someone else, right? So you might as well invest your loyalty in the people who will benefit from it, who will appreciate it, who will see what you have to offer, and who will be able to offer that in turn. And so this is also like being loyal to yourself, what you know to be right for you, the investments that you make. And it might even involve taking an inventory of like your morals, your ethics, your values, the things that you have placed most importance on over the years. And if those still are true for you, or if those are still main priorities, and it might be kind of narrowing your focus onto something else. So there might be something else that that's going to be meaningful and fulfilling to you. So I think it's just, yeah, your relationships are highlighted for sure. And I know I've said a lot, because I feel like there might be situations where you're dealing with people who are maybe less mature, maybe not interested in having the same kind of like equal, fair relationship that you are looking for, that you're capable of having. That's why that's like really being emphasized. But this is also saying that the people that are in your life that you do align with, this is a time for those relationships to shine, right? This is the time for that loyalty and that trust to be recognized, amplified, right? So it's like you're kind of getting a return on all of those interactions with people that are loyal and that are beneficial to you, right? So people expressing their love to you, people showing up for you, people supporting you, people recognizing your value, recognizing the important role that you play in their life, right? Celebrating you. So it's a really good time to kind of cut ties and move away from the people that are not so great, and to really enjoy and lean into the relationships and the interactions that are great. And also I will say, anything that has kind of like broken your trust, any kind of betrayal or lie or that kind of behavior that feels manipulative, I know that we obviously like we want to be forgiving of people, because holding grudges is just, it's not good for us. It's not good for our energy, for our karma, right? We don't want to carry that around with us. But there's a difference between forgiving somebody and like enabling them. And so it's recognizing that the people who can be a little bit manipulative or deceitful, the people who maybe are not so loyal or who kind of break your trust, those things are happening to give you an indication as to like who those people are that may not be aligned, that you might want to be moving away from. So it's okay to like understand that obviously everybody makes mistakes, and it's okay to extend forgiveness, but you don't have to continue maintaining a relationship with that person. You don't have to continue investing a great deal of time or effort into them. And it's not like a tit for tat kind of thing, like, oh, you broke my trust and now like I'm coming after you. But it's more acknowledging that like those things come up so that we can see the truth of the situation or the interaction, so that we can make a healthier decision for ourselves. And sometimes that means distancing ourselves, and by doing so we set a boundary and say like, I don't want to deal with these types of people anymore. And that kind of sends a bigger message out into the universe, and allows us to close out those cycles, particularly if we do have a habit of people pleasing. So we'll get you your cards. So yeah, you might be seeing people for who they are and figuring out like some people need to go, and then others it's like you're really feeling the love. And that could be it too. It might be like a very stark contrast where it's like obvious the people who genuinely love you and support you and are loyal to you and want to be there for you, and the people who are just like fair weather looking for something for themselves, right? So it might be easier for you to cut through that BS this month. So your first card is showing up as the Devil. Your second card is the Seven of Pentacles. And your third card is the Magician. Let's get you one more. And your final card is the Four of Pentacles. And at the bottom of the deck, you have the Four of Wands. So this is really interesting. This could have a lot to do with your material or financial resources. It doesn't have to, but there's a lot to do with the material world. So it could be like your money, your job, your belongings or possessions, house and home. And there's like a lot of manifestation energy here as well. So I kind of get the sense that like the overall vibe that I get seeing these four cards together in combination with this loyal heart thing is that if there's something that you're trying to manifest, whatever that is for you, whatever's most important to you, specifically highlighted is like the material and financial side of it, but it doesn't have to be limited to just that. If you are experiencing a block, or if you are feeling as though things are not moving forward, it could be that your loyalty to yourself is being a little bit watered down, perhaps by the interactions that you're agreeing to participate in, whether with other people or in terms of like financial agreements, any way that you're compensated. The thing that I just kind of like heard in my head is like, so your time and energy, that is the resource that you need in order to make decisions that are loyal to what it is that you're trying to manifest and what you're trying to build for yourself, right? So it's like you need that energy for yourself to do the things that are right for you. And if you're participating in things that are not to your benefit, or if you're being kind of taken advantage of by individuals, or your energy is going outward and not coming back to you, that can interfere with your ability to manifest and to see the results coming forward, because it's like on an energetic level, it's like you might want a certain thing and be trying to work toward it. But if you're participating actively in situations that are draining you of that very energy that you need to be investing in yourself, then it's almost like a very subtle form of self-sabotage. And so we can see like, well, I want this and I'm taking steps toward it, but it's not happening. And it could just be needing to kind of refocus your energy onto yourself, being loyal to what you know to be true to you, investing a little bit more time into yourself, and being more intentional about the direction that your energy and your resources go that are outside of you, right? And making sure that those are good investments, right? That you're getting a good return on that. So for your first card, with it coming up as the Devil, so you're being advised to come into the month recognizing this energy. The Devil is all about materialism. It's about temptation, right? So it's about like obviously living in the material world, and it is natural that we have goals and desires. We live in the physical world. We're meant to enjoy the physical world, but this can be a temptation to give into ego and pride, competition and comparison. It can be vanity. It can be excess, like hedonism. It can also connect to addiction. So it's kind of like being a slave to your desires, right? So it's like, take the idea of trying to manifest or wanting to achieve a certain goal, like financial stability, material stability. And it's like, how people can become corrupted by success or money, and then greed comes in, right? So it's recognizing that we're meant to live in the material world and experience and enjoy those things, but we can be tempted to go into excess. And it's recognizing what those weaknesses are for you. So it could be pride and ego. It could be greed. It could be lust. It could be like gluttony and anything, right? So it's like, think of that, anything that makes you feel helpless, right? Anything that makes you feel as though you're not enough. Because a lot of times what happens is like we feel stuck. We feel like a slave to whatever this is. So it could be like, I need more money, I need more this, I need more that. And it's like this energy that it tempts you, but then it kind of breaks you down. It makes you feel as though you don't necessarily have the strength of will or ability to get through or to succeed. Or as though like it can sometimes also tempt us to take less than ideal routes to our end destination. So it can be like if you fall into greed or lack or ego or whatever, it can cause you to behave in ways that aren't necessarily beneficial. It can be hurtful to you. It can be destructive to yourself and other people, right? And so it's recognizing any kind of way that you might feel temptation, anything that might draw you in to something that isn't necessarily healthy, and recognizing that that could very well be taking you off course, right? So I think it's just like coming to understand yourself, understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and any way that you feel your weaknesses have power over you, right? Because you don't want to be bound. And ultimately, it's like we think we're being tempted from the outside, but really it's our decision at the end of the day. And sometimes it's not until you recognize what you truly want and what truly is helpful to you, and to find a way to invest in yourself on that level, that you realize that you do have the strength and the ability to kind of overcome those unhealthy situations. This is also Capricorn energy. You could be dealing with a Capricorn. There could be a lot of pressure on you to like in terms of money, finances, home, career, and you might just feel like that's controlling your life. So any way that kind of energy shows up for you is just kind of maybe doing a little bit of an investigation into that. Your challenge for this month is showing up as the Seven of Pentacles, which is all about seeing the results of your effort, right? So the Seven of Pentacles, we start with the Ace of Pentacles, which is about having like, tons of opportunity for manifestation. A lot of the time it is material. So money, career, finances, material belongings, and like stability. So it's like you start with the Ace, which is the opportunity to plant that seed, but then there's that consistent work that needs to be done, right? To tend the seed, to tend the garden. And it takes time and patience. We don't necessarily see that immediate return on our investment, right? And it takes more work as that seed begins to grow, and it needs to be nurtured before we can really have that come to fruition. The Seven of Pentacles is about seeing that. So it's not even necessarily being at a time of harvest. It could very well be like seeing like the legitimate, fruits of your labor and being able to harvest that and enjoy that. But it can also just be finally seeing that growth, that strength, that stability coming into being, finally seeing all of that work that you've done under the surface that hasn't necessarily been apparent to anyone else, or hasn't necessarily seemed as though it's making a difference or turning into anything. And it's finally seeing how that is manifesting in the material world. So it's like when you think about these pentacles being intentions that you've set. This is what you've been trying to build. And it's taken all of this just to kind of break the soil for this little plant to be here, right? And it's recognizing that you have the ability to set those intentions and to put the work in, and that ultimately will be rewarded. So if you're questioning results like that you are potentially not seeing, or not necessarily seeing the results you would like to see in the physical world as a result of what it is you've been trying to achieve. It doesn't have to be in the physical world. It could be like on a personal development level, that it's difficult because you feel like your time and your intention is going toward like healing a certain thing or developing a certain skill. And it's like you've been working on it, but it doesn't seem evident that you've gotten to where you want to be or that you've seen results. This is a card of patience and focus, and recognizing that it does take time. And when we finally see those results, we have to take the time to appreciate like what it took to get there. And sometimes we can be like impatient, and we can question ourselves and question the process. And it's not until we see that evidence kind of finally come into our reality that we're like, wow, this whole time I was stressing and questioning myself, and it was going on under, under the radar this whole time, right? And so, yeah, you might very well be questioning your investments. And this, like, especially when it comes to loyalty, like at a job or in terms of relationships, right? It's like you can also think of your relationships as is this plant, right? So it's like you plant the seeds of time and love and intention, showing up for other people, developing a connection and a bond, right? And it's like with time and that kind of reciprocal effort, a solid and healthy relationship will start to take form and start to bloom. But it doesn't happen immediately, right? Because we need to have those experiences. That takes time to connect with people. Some people less than others, right? And so it's kind of recognizing that this might very well be a time that you're not seeing any results in your investments, whether that's relationship or financial, or it might be that you're starting to see some and not others, and that might be a good indication as to like where you should put your time, right? Because you can't have too many seeds on the go, right? Like you can only manage so much. And if your time and energy and resources are really scattered, it significantly decreases the energy that you have to make things happen. And it can make your manifestations and the things that you're trying to achieve come through more slowly, right? So this could be also connected to the fact that whatever you're trying to manifest, perhaps it's manifesting more slowly and you're not seeing as many results because your energy might be scattered in directions that don't necessarily support those goals, right? So also, if your friendships and your interactions and however this like loyalty type of energy, reciprocal energy shows up in your life, if those don't support your end goals and what you're trying to achieve, like who you're trying to be, what's important to you, what you're trying to build for yourself, if those people aren't aligned and they don't support you in such a way that you're strengthened to do what's right for you, then that could also be what is slowing your results, right? Because you're participating in something that isn't necessarily aligned with or healthy. And so it's really interesting because this doubt or this like slow process where there's a lot of room for questioning whether something is going to happen or not, as you're being advised to work through that by connecting to this magician energy. And the magician is a very, very competent and skilled manifester. And so it's funny because you think of it as magic, but the idea is that the magician has the ability, he's mastered like all of the strengths that he needs, all of the tools that are available to him. So all of the elements like earth, so the pentacles, swords, cups, wands, he has all of that. So the passion and creativity, he has the logic and the communication skills, he's got the vision, he's got the emotional intelligence and awareness and connection to intuition. He has the ability to take action in the physical world and take that inspiration, take all of that awareness, take all of that knowledge that's available to him and channel that into physical action and intentional forward movement that allows those dreams to be brought down into reality. So it's recognizing that the power is with you. And the thing is, like, what you put out comes back to you, right? So this is like the infinity. Everything is connected, right? And so it's kind of like in the world of the physical and not. So our intentions are just as important as the action that we take in the world, because everything that we do is inspired by whatever's motivating us. So it's like recognizing that you have the power to focus on what's right for you, what's healthy and what's motivating, and to allow that to inspire action. And it might not always be easy, right? Like sometimes the things that are best for us are not easy. And sometimes there's uncertainty and there's waiting, and we don't know how things are going to manifest, and we don't know if and when it's going to work out, but we have to trust. We have to trust that we have that power, and that and it's about being focused and intentional about what you're putting out and if that aligns with what you're trying to create for yourself. So anything that's imbalanced, anything that's unhealthy, anything that you're like, why am I putting effort in and not seeing any results? Or why am I not seeing the results that I want? It's recognizing that at any time you can change your focus. And I think that's the main thing here. It's like whatever you focus on is impacting you and the intentions that you're setting and the actions that you're taking, which is ultimately impacting what comes back to you. So it might even just be narrowing your focus onto the most valuable things, being loyal and true to yourself and sticking with people who are loyal and true to you. And that's just going to hone your focus and cut out that noise so that you can master what you're putting out there. Like you might not realize that you're sabotaging yourself by participating in things that don't align. And the really great thing is, like I'm saying, it could be very much connected to like your material stability as well, because the highest possible outcome this month is showing up as the Four of Pentacles, which is all about financial stability. It's kind of like the four corners, the four walls of a foundation of a house, right? So it's like having that solid foundation to build upon, making smart investments, being smart with your money. And it's also about not just investing, not just saving and holding on to your money tightly, not falling victim to lack mentality and fear of not having enough, and not making any kind of moves because you're afraid of losing what you do have. This can be the miser card, which is clinging too tightly to the resources that you do have for fear of not getting more or never having enough. And it's recognizing that if you are clinging heavily to what you've got and holding on to it for dear life because you're afraid you're not going to get any more, that fear is going to impact how you're showing up in life and obviously the decisions that you're making. And really, that's what you're manifesting. If you are taking action from a place of fear and lack, that's what you're putting out, and that's what's going to be reflected back in your relationships, in your investments, and your experiences, right? So it's kind of like you have the power if you want to come at life from like a lack mentality or an abundance mentality. And this is recognizing that when you can see like, yes, stability is important to me, the material world and my finances and my home life are important to me, and recognize the ways that you have abundance and that you have enough, even though you're striving for more, it can help you to honor yourself and your energy to a point where you are going to be wise about your investment. So it's saying, sure, I might want more, but I only have this much right now. I'm grateful that I have this much. I can still do something great with that. And, maybe one of these pentacles, you're going to invest into something that is going to be meaningful to you, promising to you, that feels right. Because once you let go, instead of holding so tightly, then your hands are free to receive, right? And so it's kind of like, this also goes to spending money. So it's spending money, investing in your finances and your resources wisely, but also being willing to spend some, right? So this Four of Pentacles very much makes me think not only of money, but also your time and energy. These are like all of your resources, right? So it's basically saying like, yeah, I've got this. I've got this to work with. I need so much for myself. I need to reserve so much. And then there's so much that I'm going to put out into the world to invest in other people, to invest in the things that are meaningful to me, with the trust that that is going to pay off for you. And you're not doing things because you want them to pay off for you. You're doing the things that feel right and aligned and important, right? You're connecting with people that you want to support, right? And naturally, they will support you in return, right? And so it's basically trusting that when you're making decisions from an empowered place where you value yourself, your time, your energy, and your resources, and you've set boundaries, so you're not going to cling to anyone or anything out of fear or lack of not having something better come in, because you trust that you can use your resources effectively, and that by using them effectively and taking action that aligns with your ultimate goal and remaining focused on that and inspired by what you're trying to achieve instead of a fear of not having it, then that will attract in people who are on the same page. But it'll also allow that wealth and those resources that you have amassed to be reflected back to you, right? So it's like when you put it out there and you share your abundance with people who are on the same page, that impacts them positively. And it's like a positive feedback loop, right? And so that's why you don't want to be throwing your energy out into the void, because that's not the energy that you're coming into it with, right? So it's like nixing those imbalanced relationships. So this is like stability across the board, which I really like. Okay, so we'll get you a couple of affirmations. I'm sorry, Aries. I don't know what it is today, but this reading has been like a hot mess. Like, it's really weird. I don't fully understand it, to be honest with you, which tells me that, like, I feel, because there's like, there is a lot of like friendship, relationship stuff here. There's a lot of money stuff here. There's a lot of manifestation stuff here. And anytime that comes up, this is also the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck, is also a card of like celebration, having fun, right? Connecting to people in your community and having like passionate connections, friendships, stability, right? So, but yeah, so anyways, with this like broad kind of energy here, it can be interpreted in so many ways. And I feel like I'm being torn in like 5 million different directions. So chances are there are very different situations, very different manifestations. It's going to be very different for each and every one of you. So I would say, like, with this mess of a reading, whatever resonates with you, even just looking at these images and like given your unique circumstances, I think you'll know how that applies to you. But like a lot of other readings, I've had a very kind of clear picture of what's going on. In this one, I do not. So I'm sorry for that. Your first affirmation is, my positive energy leaves a powerful impression on the world. So yeah, you have power. You have power to impact other people. You have gifts to offer. You have value, and you deserve to be intentional. So you can share kindness with anyone and everyone, because you don't have to, you don't have to exhaust yourself, right? But it's like being intentional about who you're interacting with, and why allows you to connect with people who are looking to have reciprocal exchanges, and that can help you kind of get to where you need to be as well. And it's like, yeah, recognizing the power of your positivity. And then it says, my happiness can be measured by the level of my faith and love. And faith is something that's really, really important. Obviously, like faith in ourselves, being loyal to ourselves, faith in our relationship and in other people, being able to trust. It's very hard to have loyal, reciprocal relationships if we're not trusting, if we don't have faith in other people. And then it's also a big factor in this manifestation, right? So faith that you're able to take action, faith that you're able to anchor your dreams down into reality, faith that you don't have to be motivated by fear and lack, and that by stepping out of that and coming from a more empowered place, that things will work out for you, right? So it's leading from a place of love, and that's what's most important to you, especially if there is a lot of focus on the material for you, on your money, on your finances. Okay, so your final oracle card is Specifine Garnet. So I'm just going to read that directly from the book. I'm already over time, of course, probably because I've been so disjointed in this reading. Okay, so Specifine Garnet. Charm and charisma, shining and sparkling, being a brilliant beacon of confidence that inspires others. So it says, every one of us is a being of light meant to shine and sparkle. Your light draws others to you, for we all seek the light. The message of Specifine Garnet Spirit is to embrace your natural charm and magnetism. Do you think you're not all that special? If so, this is only because you haven't discovered your natural charisma and expressed it. The conscious universe wants you to let it shine out, for your dazzling brilliance will be a beacon for others as you walk the healing path toward discovering your destiny. You can attract those who will help you and those who will benefit from all that you have to share, your talents, your love, your joy. We are all so lucky to have you here on this planet right now. Feel your magnetism today. Express it, shine your light in all your glory, inspiring others, and let yourself draw in whatever will help you on the journey. Relationship message says, you are a unique being with a light only you can emit. Do you think you have to work harder to make people like you? What if your soulmate is out there waiting for you to stop trying so hard and just be your glorious, amazing, brilliant self? What if your soulmate is waiting for your beacon to send out the message, I'm here and ready for a partner to shine with me? Today is a good day to recognize all that is attractive in you and stop trying to hide it out of some sort of fear that others might not be comfortable seeing you in your full glory. Shine brightly today. And then there's a prosperity message. In ancient times, the sun was revered for its power, and today, Specifine Garnet spirit brings the message that you are a powerful manifester of abundance, an extraordinary co-creator, but only if you let the real you shine. You are charismatic and dazzling, and when you accept that, opportunities show up, as do people willing to place their faith in you and invest in your ideas and projects. Abundance grows more abundance. Know that you can magnetically attract anything you need, from a small favor to a major contribution, for you inspire others to believe in you. Shine on. And then there's a meditation which says, meditation with the stone might be challenging because its energy feels like that of a bossy cheerleader. I feel like that's Aries energy to begin with. This stone is a must for building and finding your self-confidence, personal power, and creativity. Specifine Garnet asks you to stand up straight, hold your head high, and strut your stuff. So I think that goes really nicely with cutting the BS and focusing on what's right for you. It's recognizing that you deserve to, right? So like you deserve to recognize all the value that you have to offer, and to be discerning about how and when you share that with and who you're sharing that with. Because, you know, to be confident and to believe in yourself and to value yourself and to make decisions that are healthy for you, it really just kind of continues to solidify that. That's being loyal to yourself, and that draws in more people who will be loyal to you. The people who are not necessarily aligned, who might be a little bit of a drain on your resources, like I said, you can still shine your light. You can still impact them positively by being you, by being confident, but it's like you're setting an example. So even if you're not giving them what they want, even if you're not investing a lot of time and energy into them because it's not a healthy outlet for you, you are still impacting them positively, right? Because you are setting an example of valuing yourself, doing what's right for you, setting your boundaries, believing in yourself, knowing your worth, and not allowing anyone to kind of stomp on that or take that away from you. And so I think that's important, especially people that, or situations that you kind of need to move away from. Because it's like there are a ton of people out there who are going to be able to connect with you to benefit and for you to have mutually beneficial interactions. And the people that are maybe more of a drain are benefiting from you at a distance. And the best thing that you can do for both of you is to kind of remove yourself, because if somebody's codependent or expecting you to kind of look after them or constantly give to them, by doing that, you're really just preventing them from dealing with whatever it is that's causing them to seek so heavily outside of themselves instead of feeling empowered, right? So by being empowered to do what's right for you, you're going to set the standard that people can't take advantage of you, and you're going to inspire people to see that that is something they can do for themselves as well. So, well, Aries, this is the longest reading yet. I hope this was helpful to you. If you did enjoy, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, engage with me, leave me a message, let me know what you think. Also, if you know anyone that might be interested in these types of readings, you can feel free to share my content, and make sure that you head over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Not only subscribe, but ensure you're signed up for notifications, and that way you will stay up to date on new information, new readings as they're posted. And you can also check out, I've got a few timeless pick a card readings that you can access at any time, in addition to the monthly zodiac readings. So I'm going to be trying to do more of those as my schedule kind of frees up a little bit. But yeah, it's been a pleasure reading for you. I'm excited to connect with you next month to see what June has in store. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.